don't back it. Don't do it. Now, we're going to do this slightly differently, but disclaimer at the beginning, as always, I am not trolling. I am a big fan of supporting crowdfunding. I'm a big fan of supporting companies in general. However, do you need to get it now? Do you need to get it now on crowdfunding? Can you support the company at retail later? Is there a FOMO-driven model? Do you need the deluxifications? Is it too much overlapping with things in your collection already? All of those things, just to say, hey, look, you know what? It's okay not to spend. I'm going to tell you the things I like about it. I'm going to tell you the things I don't like about it. So again, you can play both sides if you really want to, but overarchingly, the plan of this video is to say you shouldn't be backing anything on crowdfunding, and if you are, you need to be okay with those main criticisms. Let's freaking go. Do you think I was going to start anywhere else? You can spend the GDP of a small country to blingify your Arc Nova. The things I like about this campaign. One, there's not really any gameplay content. So if you are a gameplay only person, there's not really any reason to do crowdfunding for Arc Nova, and I freaking love that. Two, I kind of like a little bit of some of the acrylicness in some of these aspects. The things I don't like. I'm going to make the argument that I don't think this overarching deluxification is going to make it any easier to get to the table. Like, this is going to be a hell of a lot longer to set up, tear down, piece out in order to actually get it on the table. And it doesn't necessarily allow me to quite view the things I want to quite view in that way. I think it's going to be harder to tell what's going on in your areas as well as your opponent's areas if you're an over-the-shoulder golden eye person like I was growing up. So I think that has to be said. And as Cole Wehrle has famously said, and I love this quote, big boxes are where your favorite board games go to die. And this is no exception to that. Now, instead of being able to take Arc Nova with you, it won't be able to barely leave your closet because you can turn something this size into this size. So again, like that's fine and all, but it reminds me more of the Lord of the Rings Collector's Edition. Collector's Edition. Collector's Edition. Say it with me. The wording tells you what it is. It's not a player's edition. It's not the easier to get to the table and utilize and get the game played more often edition. It's the you want a aesthetic that can just sit out on a coffee table to please the people that you entertain on a random weekend while you sip your Pinot Noir. Well, this is that. I'm not enamored with some of the plastic, though. It reminds me more of the CMON Masters of the Universe 1980s level plastic than anything else. And seriously, for $300, you know, I wish they would have at least cleaned up some of the iconography here to make it just, you know, better, personally speaking. But again, if it's one of your favorite games of all time, you do it. But holy freaking cow, is that a hell of a lot of money. Things I do like, though, give me the playmats, give me the playmats, give me the playmats. But that's why you shouldn't even consider this. Now, Blood Rage Valhalla, Tycoon Games, right? This is not significantly different from an original Blood Rage. So if you like the original Blood Rage, I don't think you're going to like this. Or arguably, you don't need this whatsoever. Now, if this is a Dune Imperium Uprising situation, the other recommendation that has to be at this point is this one may be your thing. This one might be the one to integrate yourself into. The other thing I like about this campaign is offering some of the previous stuff from the previous editions of the Lang trilogy. I like that. I don't like the fact that you're rebundling them, so it's really hard to tell who needs to get what and which boxes, and then having to overbuy stuff if you've got some but not the other. That's kind of irritating in that way. I like getting rid of some of the meta and some of the most meta portions of this drafting area control game in the first place. You know what? I am one of those people who mocked the board and said it looked like Clue, but I like the different dynamics. I like the non-Ragnarok feature. I like more monsters that this is offering. I like that you've taken some of the miniatures and separated them out. But I don't think this is going to be a game to wet your feet in. This is not a... You know what, Chris? I've really been tempted by area control in the past. I'm really thinking I should make this... No! This is not the one that you decide that you're going to go for right now. The other question is, $125 at retail for a base game of this? Holy F-balls, Batman Tabletop Tycoon. That's a lot. So that's the other thing that I just have to wonder is, does this actually meet that price point standard? Here's all the rebundling that I mentioned. Here's all the add-ons individually. And that's the price point conundrum with this. Or are you better off trading for it? Now, I will give a little kudos here as a quick special update to Blood Rage, because they just put out an update that says you can just get some of the exclusives that you may have missed from the previous campaigns. So I do like the fact that you're going in and changing potentially the plan at the same time. Is this a change of plans? I don't freaking know. No one knows. But I like that they're offering it at least in this way to make up for some of those other bundling issues that I previously mentioned. Elden Ring, Rotten Sorcery. So, okay, you can get one, but if you want the other, you have to buy both. That is the big downside. The other thing that I have not looked through, truth be told, all of the individual updates. But if you can't show me in short synopsis what is new about this, what is different about this version of things, why would I want to get in on this, right? You saw on the Blood Rage page, at least they were like, hey guys, boom, shakalaka, right up front, smack you in the face, and telling you what's different. And I don't know, right? Like, okay, I've got different classes. That's fine. What have you done with the mechanistic approach that has taken the most criticism of this game? And if you're one of those people who's doing this for just the miniatures, fantastic. If you're one of those people doing this for the gameplay, I don't see any reason to not wait at this point or see what it's going to look like in the actual that aspect after it reaches crowdfunding backers' hands in that way. Plus, when you go down to the add-ons here, dual layer enemy dashboards aren't standard. Okay, I wish that was standard. This is an $80+ expansion. So if you were bulking at the base game for Blood Rage, this is an expansion that will cost you more than that. This better be the best expansion you've ever seen in your life for a 100mm miniature. And that's the other thing that worries me that I don't like. These miniatures are awesome, but when that's the key feature of what you're showing me here with this, that worries me. And I just can't tell. Of the dungeon crawls, of the component upgrades, of all of the other exclusive expansions, right? All of these things are amazingly high priced. So is it something that you're wagering to go in on at this point? And as a 2.0 believer on crowdfunding, that if you wait long enough, it'll come back around and be upgraded, I can't freaking tell if they've done any of this. And you're going to have to watch tons of created videos by them or even one of the few people that got copies as well, shelf side, to know where is your head needing to be at. But again, if you don't know, wow, is this an expensive wait and see otherwise? The game makers. This is the most meta, wink, wink, nod, nod, wink, wink, nod, nod, meta game I've ever seen. I also like the fact that they have gone in with so many other companies, gotten approval, and done that. However, it's a lot lighter than what it appears. I like the simultaneous forklift mechanism of gathering resources that can be dual used. However, I like also the Lazy Susan mechanism of doing that simultaneous play. I do not like the price point. This is Foundations of Rome all over again. I see no reason that this can't be done by not cutting corners, but by not making everything absolutely, utterly. Everything needs to be over the top, guys. Everything needs to be deluxeified in order to make our vision complete. Otherwise, the game isn't going to be what we... No, I would never buy something like this if I was a casual person walking into a game store for, again, it goes for $150 on here. So you know that game stores are going to sell it for at least $175 at the retail level if you support your friendly local game store. And if you are completely new to this, this is nothing that anyone is going to buy in that regard. So I will wait for my Foundations of Metropolis version of this in that regard. Also, the people that have played it say that although you are emphasizing on the campaign page, right, like all of the various premium components and blah, 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 blah. What am I actually looking for here? The different types of games and the themes that they talk about after we get past everything. Somehow I missed it there. Oh, the games in a game. Here we go. The games in a game here. All of the different types of games. There's only really 4 different mechanistic approaches to all of these games, which is a little bit irritating from an endgame victory standpoint, because it also then has the Arc Nova feel of there's just a big deck that you may get the things that you want, or you may not get the things that you want that are available to your opponent more easily to you. And although you're telling me all of these are different, but they're not from a gameplay standpoint. So what's the point of this? This is just like superfluous fluff, as I said in my other video, to make you feel like almost paying $15 for mashed potatoes is okay because they used fancy adjectives to describe it in the fancy restaurant that you had to dress up in to go and get it in the first place. If this doesn't have a mechanistic approach change, I don't freaking care. And when you read the rulebook, there's only 4 different types of games, and they lump them together in sets of 2. And so that's fine, but what's the point of listing them out here, I guess, unless I'm completely and utterly wrong? I just don't know. You're just giving me, again, glazing on the top, picture-wise, than it is a mechanistic standpoint. I don't really like the fact that 150 cards of gameplay component are locked behind an extra $50 play level where you have to get the deluxeifications to go along with it. Yes, they say in the FAQ that you'll be able to get all these cards later, but again, I don't like bundling gameplay content with deluxeifications. That pisses me off every single time, and I worry about this just being so oversized. Look at this. Does this look like it's going to be easy to get out and set up and tear down? I don't know. I like the Lazy Susan. I like the idea of the rotating simultaneous play, but I'm not a big fan of the rest. So is it off my wish list? No. Am I going to back it now? No. Immediate Murder Professionals, a Helluva Boss official board game. I like the aesthetic of this. I like the idea of having to capture these cards out from the center. I have absolutely no idea how this plays. The rulebook doesn't clarify things up. It doesn't tell you what any of these spell cards do or how you're actually going to be having these meaningful interactions. You can't read what text is on the card hardly in order to tell remove and discard all target cards located at the crystal, replace each one. I mean, again, like, give me 10 cards on the page that actually show me like that, and I'd be all for it. But there's absolutely nothing on the page. If I can't tell how deep mechanistically or crazy chaos this is going to be, even though this is potentially my type of game in the first place, it's a big pass, even though it's got a couple $100,000. Camp frickin' Grizzly. I mean, it's Camp Grizzly, right? And the only thing I can say with this one, I like the fact that you've bundled and given me all the gameplay content. I don't like the fact that you have not made it compatible the first time around. I understand, though, at the same time, why you haven't done it, because it's not really feasible. The other thing I do not like is that you're bundling all of the expansions in with this for an $80 price point or a $60 retail version of things. And why I'm saying that as a minor criticism here more than anything else is that why can't you just have a base game for $30? Why do I have to pay an extra $50 to get all the expansions when you invariably know that all of these expansions, as they run you through all of the different expansion content right here of this is adding this and this is adding this and this is adding this and they're all different adding this and they're all adding this and they're all adding, you know, you're not going to like all of these, but you're having to pay $50 extra. But because this game is on a print, you're looking at this and going, I don't have any of these accessibly in the first place. Well, that's fine. But wouldn't you rather pay for $30 of the base game and $20 or $30 for the expansions that you really rather love and know that you're going to like, rather than $50 and a bunch of expansions that you're not going to use or not going to love, even though now it's accessible? Well, it'll be accessible now going forward, so there shouldn't be an issue from that standpoint anyway, but you're just having to pay for more extra content that you don't essentially need. So again, I'd rather be able to pick and choose. That's the biggest criticism I can say for an out-of-print game and otherwise available prior to this. It's also going to be a lot lighter than what you may be hoping for or expecting as well. So it's a more thematic experience game rather than a deep mechanistic one versus all style. So just be buyer beware. And if that's not your thing or you don't realize how it is, take that into account and maybe go watch some gameplay before anything else. Risk of Rain. Again, the flow of this game is very intriguing to me, but it's also the biggest crapshoot of almost any of these games in the crowdfunding page. I love the cooperative sense of a roguelike Slay the Spire Dead Cells version of this. However, I'm not sure with this portal jumping around system if it's going to be more Marvel United or if it's going to be more just too simplistic, grindy, repetitive Dark Souls-esque in a completely different way than Dark Souls, but I'm using that as the example of things that should have been good but ultimately weren't, even though it could have been. And I just can't tell based off of what they've provided in the gameplay video and the solo. Not that this is necessarily not representative of things, but just that the depth of gameplay, right? Same thing with Marvel United. The depth of gameplay is so evidently illustrated in the expansions and the promo content that was not able to be clearly illustrated during the campaign, that I just can't tell if it's going to be the same sort of thing here or if it's going to be completely different in the way that it's just not going to change, I guess, is a convoluted way of saying that. And that's what worries me, especially when we're talking about IP situations with miniatures that look blah in the first place. These kind of look crappy, and if they're really small, they're completely worthless to me. So I look at it as well of going in and saying, can I just get a retail pledge level that doesn't have the miniatures that's going to be, again, 3/4 of this price? Then I'd be willing to wager and go out there on a ledge, if you will. But there's way too many other good cooperative games, even Dead Cells and Slay the Spire, that are setting the standard standard for this in the first place for me to want to wager and to go after this in the first place right now. Again, expansion content giving you a ton of stuff. I think this could be one of the highest risk reward games overall in this whole video of unknowns, but I think it could also be lower because we've also seen one of these, or several of these, I guess, that have not lived up to expectations. And I just cannot tell based off of IPs anymore which of these it is. I'm looking at you, Terraria. You know what? Because we can throw a little bit of a quick edge in here on the latest ones from this past week that launched. Check my crowdfunding roundup later this week as well for further details on these more in depth. But what do I like about Andromeda's Edge Genesis from Cardboard Alchemy? Well, weirdly enough, $378,000 for this and $366,000 for Galactic Cruise at the time of filming this, which is just eerily similar. But what I like about this is, although this doesn't look like a ton of money, right? And I'm guilty of this, first looking at this right away and saying, well, that's not very good. But 4,600 people. And the thing that you have to realize is this, if you haven't looked at the campaign page yet, is that the actual expansion cost is $29. So now $400,000 actually is pretty freaking good because you have almost all of your people. Look at this right here. If you can read that number, 4,100 of those people I just mentioned are just getting the expansion, which is a relatively freakishly high percentage getting in just expansion. Because with these previous campaign offerings, oftentimes when they come the second time around, there is a lot more people going in and getting the base game or getting big bundles oftentimes than this. So what does that say about things? I don't know. But I guess what it says is also that the people that love it really, really freaking love it. Do you need more, right? Do you need more? Do you need just an absolute more of everything that this has to offer with bases, stars, shrines, developments, factions, and all of the hype people that are talking about it that love this game, love this expansion? Is that going to be the thing that changes your mind with this? I don't know. But I guess this, as well as Galactic Cruise, to tie this one in right here, is that can you get it played? Can you get the expansions played like I was talking about with the other campaigns at the beginning of this? Now, this expansion is $49, and this is more unlockable. The other is more just pure integration, so ease of access. Got to give hands down probably to, Andromeda's Edge. But do you like the ability to unlock more? Do you actually feel like unlocking things in this way is going to get utilized in the same aspect? And this is a game that already has 2 expansions with it from the first time around, although you can make the argument that Andromeda's Edge kind of included a bunch of expansions as part of their base game, if you want to look at it like that. And look, they're even partnering with each other. So if you get one, you can get the other, which is, again, kind of weird because it's kind of cool, but it's kind of a way to make people back both, because this is also a play on the FOMO-driven aspect that often plagues our hobbies. So I like the extra content. I don't like it as well in the same regard from that reason. I really, really like positive player interaction. I have a game that I'm going to be talking about very shortly that has a lot of that in a great way, Mercurial Alchemia, which is launching at the end of the month. But this is just super heavy. I think this is actually arguably heavier than Andromeda's Edge. Does it mean it's difficult? Then if you like it, everybody likes it. Look at all these people that are smart and have huge channels and that love it, and they will tell you why you should love it and why you should, holy crap, that's a lot of stuff to go along with it for a lot of money. So you're right. Base games, do they make it easier to play? We're just going to stay with that before I get myself in trouble here. You know what? We'll throw Terrorscape 2 in here from Ice Makes as well. $500,000 almost at this point. It's just a question of Final Girl, Marvel United, any of these. You mix and match. You get the compatibility ones that you so desire. And the biggest problem with crowdfunding, as much as this game actually looks freaking good to me now, that I've actually looked into it. So The problem is that you can't always tell when you're doing some of the bundling here, the core game, or realistically more, the core game plus the 3 expansions, which of these 3 expansions in the lines of those other games that I mentioned, in the Camp Grizzly that I mentioned earlier in this video, of which is going to be your favorite. I mean, you could make the argument in that sense as well with Galactic Cruise, now with 3 expansions. And I guess I don't look at this as a great game for miniatures from that side of things, but I think it's doing something different. If you like the terror side of things, great, but you gotta like the overall one versus all mechanism as well. So as someone who didn't check this out the first time around, I'm intrigued to see what's new and what's different. But again, I'd make the argument it reminds me very heavily of Marvel United. Maybe it is a little bit better. Is it a little power creep? Are you going to be able to match them all with your previous ones if you're a previous backer in addition? Or is it going to be like the Blood Rage situation where I compared it to Dune and Dune Imperium Uprising and said maybe your 2.0 version is the best place to start, period, just like Marvel United? Well, you can give it a look-see and we'll cover it more later. Satchel Quest! Right before, right after this, I will have my own thoughts on the prototype of Satchel Quest. The things you like. This is another in the bag, builder bag, puller, press your luck style of things. A la your quacks, if you will. Only in this case, you're dungeon delving and filling the rows until the row is full and then rinsing and repeating. You buy more chips, you get more powerful chips, and you see who can get the most points in these combinations of chip laying, chest opening, monster defeating style of things. On the downside of things, there's not a lot of control. There's not a lot of, I know what to expect. There's a lot of, you're going to take a lot of damage and you're not going to be able to defend stuff well, and the chests aren't going to open correctly, and you're not going to get the chips you want because you can only tell what one side of them is, even though you're trying to peek at the ones you want as well. The skills are okay. But again, this one has, I want to see what the prototype versus the final product looks like. Versus, wow, this is an amazing, amazing thing right now, having a hands-on approach to this. I really, really like bag building as well. So, again, it's just, is the end product going to be as good? I felt like overarchingly, as fun as it was, it still didn't quite scratch that quack's itch, if you will. So, does it do something differently? Absolutely. Are you going to like it? Maybe. But you know what you do with a maybe. Photo Tour North America. 2 expansions and a reprint. This is a light game. This is a light game. And that is both a pro and a con for this. This is not going to be an incredibly strategic Euro-style game. You move, you match places, you use dice to go along those routes, and now we're getting a couple expansions with some clear layered cards and with a little bit more of everything. And it makes me think of a Lords of Waterdeep situation where maybe the game you really want is there now with the Alaska and the Yukon expansion. Or maybe it's there with the additional Expeditions expansion, which is just offering more of that in the first place. But do you want to buy an expansion to make a game what you want, right? Like with Lords of Waterdeep. Scoundrels of Skullport is a must-have. That doesn't double your price, but it increases it significantly. As opposed to the more recently game I played of Builders of Baldur's Gate. The base game alone there is not as good as Lords of Waterdeep, Scoundrels of Skullport, all included. But is it better than Lords of Waterdeep, the initial base game? Absolutely, hands down. So which side of that fence do you fall on in that way? Can you tell which expansion is going to be your best fit right now? Well, if you can, go for it. If you can't, again, you know what to do. Skyscratchers. I like this game. This has family friendly written all over it. It's incredibly random. You're just going to be pulling things, and if you're not a spatial person, pass the hell out of this. Don't do it because it's cats. 2 to 4 players, 30 minutes. It's going to be hella light as you basically just move your cat up different color parts of the building. I could see this be a real runaway leader problem too, especially if you get a couple different cards that are really more powerful. And it's incredibly Take That. And I love Take That. You don't like Take That. You don't like Take That to this extent. Premium components, though, are going to cost you a pretty penny. And do you need some of this? Again, the expansion stuff. So, cats? Don't go for the cats vibe. Go because you want to take that and knock other people off more than anything else. But if you don't, avoid this like the plague. Or the bubonic cat plague. I don't know. Next game. Assassin's Creed Animus. Speaking of light, this is an incredibly light game. This is Witcher Path of Destiny-esque, right? Where this is not like a dungeon crawl. This does not need miniatures whatso-frickin' They're placeholders on your map, nothing else. It's combo-driven card play. I like the fact that it's going to be easier to get to the table. I don't think the depth of the combo chain and the take that's in this game is going to be necessarily right for me as far as I can tell right now. You can pile on other people's challenges in order to make them harder. Does that sound like fun to you of an overarching just knock people down in that way? Especially as a Euro game, especially as more of a Euro try and optimize the skill check situation? I don't know, man. This has just, I have no clue written all over it. So, Mantic, I know you don't come to, retail widely, but boy howdy, I just have to look at this and go, if this wasn't Assassin's Creed, would you even be giving this a second glance based off the gameplay? Endearment, $300,000, $250,000. This is a light luck fest, and it's very similar to Dux's previously two funded games. I could see a potential runaway leader problem. It's very heavily luck dependent, but it's riding on its coattails of aesthetically pleasing Victorian era Jane Austen thematic incorporation. And again, I don't say that as a negative, but I do say it as a negative. Because again, just like with Assassin's Creed, if the theme is stripped away, are you still okay with these mechanics of going around to different rooms and taking different mechanisms and then having some set collection to go along with it? Heirloom quality materials, as I said in my crowdfunding roundup, what does that even mean? That's just a way of trying to get you to justify extra costly components in a fancy restaurant styling up the food to make you pay more sort of way. And again, you can spend over $300 on this Jane Austen themed game if that's your ilk, but that's a hell of a lot of money with a hell of a lot of other games and expansions that you don't know right now. I think that's the theme, if nothing else, is are you willing to pay more for lighter and for shorter? Because this is now like 3 in a row. That's it. That's the don't back anything right now. Like I said, crowdfunding roundup. I'm getting away, truth be told, about getting those out by Friday because those are really hard to do during the week, especially when I'm working. So they're going more towards Saturday, Sunday, even Monday the week after. So expect to see that. I'll have a couple videos as well out with upcoming reviews. Like I mentioned, Mercuria Alchemia. I'm going to have Disco Laundry Heist as well as Spell Rift Legends. So all of those will be covered probably in the next, the first one actually, Mercurial, is at the end of the month, but the next two are launching this coming week. So I will have some video content, at least one right away at campaign launch. We'll see if the other one gets done as well because, it's going to be a long weekend. But that's okay. I love doing this. I love talking about it. And I just thank you for your support. As always, have a great freaking fantastic day. Play some fun games.